We have several kinds of testing methods, and I want to clear terms because each company or each place uses a little bit slightly different terms. So we use browser tests for E2Es. When we say E2E or browser, it's pretty much the same. And we use them for like larger scope tests. When we actually open a real browser, maybe headless, but a browser. Usually those are based on Selenium. We have Protractor, we have Nightwatch, Nightmare, we have all kinds of suits for that. And we have Karma as well, which was pretty popular on Angular days. And today with React, it's not as popular. And we have Puppeteer, which is the new kid on the block. It's based on Chrome DevTools. We will use this today for our browser tests. And we started to use it at Wix, and we're very happy with it. The disadvantage with Chrome DevTools, with the Puppeteer or Chrome DevTools protocol, is that it's based on Chrome. You cannot use it for Firefox or Explorer, but it's a little bit different scope. So we also have automation tests, which run all browser and stuff. But when we develop on day-to-day, we want something quick and fast, and we're starting to use Puppeteer on all kinds of places at Wix. And until now, we're very happy with it. How many of you knows Puppeteer? Or how many of you written tests in Puppeteer? One. Great. So, Roman. So you'll have something new to learn today. I hope it will be interesting for you. And then we have and we usually use it. I'll talk about it later, but we usually we like to work outside in. I'll talk more about it later, but when you work outside in, you start with your largest scope with browser tests, and then you go deeper to component tests. Component tests are usually we use Mocha or Jest. It is written using Node. By the way, Puppeteer and Selenium base are also usually they are written in Node. So the tests are written in Node. It's important to understand the tests are written in Node, and there is a real browser with your production code running in the background. And component tests are also using Node, but there is no real browser. So we use JS DOM to mimic browser behavior. But here those are much faster. But here you cannot do stuff like, for example, it's much harder to test stuff like browsing or like navigation or like browser-specific stuff like scrolling, measure stuff, measure your components. And when you use API calls, for example, you want to see that you have a real server and real browser which tests everything. We don't have a lot of browser tests. We try to have less of them because they're heavy. They take time. And component tests are much faster. And we also use, we test React components with those tests, and we use, for example, Enzyme. We'll talk about it later. And today we will use Jest and Enzyme in order to write component tests. Jest is the test runner, like you have Mocha, Jest, Jasmine. We will use Jest. And then you have unit tests. So when you have smaller units with a lot of logic, sometimes it will be hard to use component tests for that because they will require a lot of setup. And then you will have pure node environment without JS DOM, without anything. It will be really fast, really fast to work with. And you will see everything today during the workshop, okay? And last thing we have today, we will not have them because we will not have real server here. I thought a lot about this, but it's not enough time to have a node server as well, because I have 3 hours and then you have 3 hours, it's not enough. But when we do have a server, we use integration tests for the server. So actually we have node tests, which are calling API endpoints and checking the endpoints alone, like only the endpoint. Okay? Questions so far? Feel free. Yeah.
Do you use some coverage tools or not?
Yeah, we use coverage tools. We have all kinds of coverage tools, not something specific. It's important to see that coverage tools are lying. So it's hard to tell because sometimes you have browser tests which covers stuff which component tests did not cover. So coverage in component tests will lie. They will say that you have less. And sometimes you have 100% coverage, but it's not really tested. So don't trust it. But it's nice as another tool to measure, like to see if you have a drop in coverage or something. So, yeah.
About component tests and unit tests, it's the same or?
So the question, sorry?
I mean, component tests and unit tests, it's the same or different? Because component tests are already run on not environments. So
yeah, so
it's like the same?
So the question was if component tests and unit tests are the same because they both running on Node. So this is a good question. So they're similar, but the difference is that in component tests we use JSDOM to mimic browser behavior. So the environment is JSDOM and not Node. So you have, for example, if you do window.xhr or something, you see that you have some kind of not real browser. And unit tests are pure Node, and it might be a little bit confusing from time to time, but in component tests, you can do some kind of integration test as well. You can test your whole application from the higher component level. And we will speak about it later, but there are advantages and disadvantages for all kind of them. Just in one word, it's much easy, like Uncle Bob said, to refactor when you test from above, like when you don't do little details, when you don't have small detail tests, because then it will be much harder to refactor. And if you're using end-to-end or integration, it will be much easier to refactor. But there are cons and pros. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use like Storybook for testing components?
Yeah, we have Storybook. We have the question was if we use Storybook for testing components. Okay. So for the tests. So this was a great question. We have a component library. And in this component library, we use Storybook. For example, if we want to do image comparing, so we want to compare images of the components, so we do it on Storybook. It's nice. You can actually open Storybook, do an image and compare image, and then we use this a lot. So yeah, but we don't have a lot of them. It's heavy as well. More questions? Yeah.
Is Puppeteer some kind of replacement of json? Can we do component test with tests using Puppeteer?
Yeah, so the question was if Puppeteer is a replacement for JSDOM, right? This was the question. So it's not the same. Puppeteer is using actual browser. So it's headless. So they use Chromium. I will show you really soon. So Puppeteer is kind of between Selenium to JSDOM tests. It's in the middle. But if, for example, you don't test for us, we stopped testing E2Es on Explorer and Firefox long time ago. So we have like an automation test on that, but during development, we don't use Firefox and Explorer. So for us, it's perfect for Chrome, but it's not the same. You will see it's completely different. It uses real browser, and the main difference is your production code will run on browser and not on JSDOM. This is the main difference. Yeah.
How fully JSDOM emulate a browser? Because where is the difference between browser and JSDOM?
Yeah. So the question was how fully JSDOM covers the browser. So it does pretty good job, pretty good work. So you have, for example, if you do a cross-origin request, it will throw you an error. So it's pretty much doing a lot of stuff, but until it has its limitations. So it's not perfect for everything. I'm trying to think of an example. I had few examples. I will try to think about examples, because we had examples when you cannot. For example, you cannot measure components, as I said before. If you have a test for measuring your DOM, you're measuring your components, you cannot do it with JSDOM because there's no real browser there. Okay, so this was the introduction about testing terms. And before we start, before we start the actual workshop, I want to do a little bit introduction to Puppeteer, okay? Because most of you doesn't know what Puppeteer is. It's new, so I don't want to dive deep inside our application, and it will be easier for you. So Puppeteer is basically an abstraction over Chrome DevTools protocol. But wait, what is Chrome DevTools protocol? So Chrome DevTools protocol is actually when you are using Chrome DevTools, it's only a UI over this protocol. It's actually an open source. It's a UI, a real regular UI web application. I can actually go to Chrome DevTools Frontend, and I can, whoa, Chrome DevTools Frontend, and it's actually a web application which uses this Chrome DevTools protocol behind the scenes using WebSockets to interact the browser and to control it. And let's play with it, okay? And actually, just one more thing before we start. So you have the actual API here. You can actually go and look at it. You have all kinds of methods and stuff here at Chrome DevTools protocol, okay? So this is what Puppeteer is using. So let's play with it a little bit. Let's open our browser. I'll open Canary just to have two different browsers. And I will open it with remote debugging port, okay? I will open wix.com. Canary is just an alias I prepared. So this is actually, I opened wix.com site. And now I will go to my own Chrome. And I can actually I will try to write as high as possible because I know that from behind you it will be hard for you to see. So I can actually go to this port now. And I can actually show all debuggable instances. And actually what I just did is I opened remote DevTools. So now I have DevTools from my Chrome controlling my Canary instance. And I can actually go and play with it a little bit. Let's go to, it's a little bit hard for me to see because it's really large. Just a second. I will go to main. Let's go to the first section. And let's remove the background image. I don't like it. Let's put background color, which is red. I have high UI skills, so this is much nicer. So what I actually did is I controlled my Canary from remote. I control it from this UI remotely. And actually I can go to a network. And actually let's debug this thing. So actually it uses WebSockets behind the scenes. This UI uses WebSockets behind the scenes to control my browser. So let's open DevTools to my DevTools, okay? I'm debugging this DevTools. So I just opened, it's a little bit mind-blowing, but now I open DevTools to this UI DevTools. And let's go over to Network WebSockets, and let's see what is going on behind the scenes. I want to go to WebSockets, and actually those are the frames which is sent by my DevTools. You see when I hover, for example, I see stuff going on behind the scenes. Because actually what it does, it controls the browser from WebSockets. So let's, for example, go to console. This is my UI, and I will do alert hi from Chrome. And now I have alert in my Canary place, and I can actually see that I had a runtime evaluate. Let's try. I know it's a little bit hard to see for all of you, so I'll try to move it like this. Can you see? I can actually see that I sent a runtime evaluate method, and the expression is alert hi from Chrome using WebSocket. I sent it to my Canary instance, okay? And this is how it works, okay? This is Chrome developer protocol. Questions so far? Cool. So this is how it works. Let's play with it a little bit more. Let's do it ourselves, okay? I will open another instance, another tab, and I can actually go to and make an XHR request to JSON versions, and then I can have details about the debuggable instances. For example, I can have the WebSocket URL for it. Okay, so this is the WebSocket to control my canary. So I can actually grab this one, and let's play with it a little bit. Let's open console and have a WebSocket. Okay, I'm doing it myself now. What I just did before is I showed you how the browser works, how Chrome DevTools work. Now I'm doing it myself. Let's open a WebSocket. WebSocket and WebSocket with this connection. And now I want to debug my incoming messages. So I register to onMessage, and I will just print this message to console. So each incoming back message from WebSocket, I will see it. And now let's play with it a little bit. Let's do send, and I will send. First, I will start with create target. Let's create a target. In my history, I have some Israeli news site. Interesting for you to watch Israeli news. So I can actually, I opened, wait, what? Something went wrong, maybe, I didn't, wait, did I use the right CFC here? Let's see. Yeah, it's the right address, so I did something wrong. Let's see. Let's start all over. New WebSocket and WebSocket.onMessage log, and let's do now send and create target, and I want to open. For strange reason it doesn't work. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, sorry for that. Sometimes live coding sucks. Sorry for that. Let's do all over. I did it a lot of times, but this is the first time it doesn't work. So let's do the same again, and let's open WebSocket, and let's do WebSocket new WebSocket. Okay, WebSocket and WebSocket.send. Let's open a different site maybe. Let's open wix.com again. Yeah, so I don't know what happened. Maybe something with the network blocking with the Israeli, I don't know. So I started wix.com again. Okay, this is the new instance. And now let's attach to process. When I attach target, so when I created a new instance, I get target ID. So now I want to attach to target, and then I will have a session. I will get a session ID, and I will have a session. So now I have a session ID, and now I can start interacting with it. Okay, let's do something like send message, and I will send a console log. I think alert will not work at Google, at wix.com. I can try it. Let's try. No, alert did not work. Let's try with console log. So now if I open my console, didn't work as well, bummer. So I have some network stuff, I guess, here. I did it tons of times, and let's try the... Oh, yeah, now it works. So I was missing HTTP, sorry. So I now opened the Israeli news site again, and let's take the target ID. And let's now create it. Sorry, not create a target. Let's do attach. So when I'm doing attach, I'm starting a new session, and I will take this session ID, and now I will send an alert with this session. Sorry for the technical problems. And this didn't work as well. Never mind. Sometimes live coding sucks. So actually, this is what Puppeteer does. Okay, behind the scene, this is Puppeteer. Okay, the last part, forget about it. Some technical issues. I don't know what. So let's continue. So this is Puppeteer. Puppeteer is an abstraction over Chrome DevTools protocol. This is what it does. And if I go to Puppeteer documentation, I can see that it's really similar to the documentation we saw before in Chrome DevTools. So for example, I have a browser and a page and all kind of stuff that we already saw in Chrome DevTools. You see browser, page, it's really similar, okay? Because it's an abstraction over this protocol. So let's start with the workshop. And what we will have today is we will write a tic-tac-toe game, okay? Tic-tac-toe, I will show you an example. So this is tic-tac-toe, and we will have some kind of a game like this. Here it's you play versus the computer. We will do like 2 players, okay? And this will be our game. And the final result, I will do it a little bit slightly different. This is I invested a lot in the UI, so be prepared. This is the UI. And this is the game. So we have a registration form. This is the registration form. You will click new game, and then we'll have a new game. And the current player will be marked in some great UI. And then let's say that the X will win. I will have a message, and there will be a bonus part of, for example, if I do something like this, I can save the game, and then I can refresh and load the game, okay? This will be a bonus task for you later, okay? So this will be actually what we'll do today until the end of the day. And we will do it TDD. TDD meaning I won't open the browser anymore, okay? Only if you will ask me to see UI or stuff, but we will not open browser at all. We don't need the browser. And let's go to, and a little bit about our stack. I will use create React app for that, using Jest, Puppeteer, and Enzyme for component test. You will see soon. So I will do start for watching my stuff going, but I won't use the browser for it. And I will do npm run test with what? Wait. First I want to move to my branch. Oh, sorry, test. Yeah, so now I have a watch behind the scenes, and the reason for that, it's not important for the workshop, but just so you know, we will run browser now, and I want to run the tests with a watch, but I have a bundle as well, which I run against, and the start will build my bundle on each change I does, okay? And our test will watch as well, okay? It might be a little bit confusing. It's a little bit setup that I did over create React app, so it will work. You can watch it later. I will send you the repository. You have some setup here. It's not important, but just if you're curious, I'm starting Puppeteer. I'm launching the browser at first, one time, because I don't want the browser to be initialized for each test or for each suit. So this is a small setup I did. It will launch the browser headless. Okay, this is the setup for Puppeteer. and it will put browser on global. This is a jest setup. This is a jest limitation. I won't talk about it more because it's not important for the workshop, but just it is just important so we know that global browser is our Puppeteer launch. Puppeteer launch is actually launching a browser instance. We can later have a new tab for that browser, and then we can navigate, okay? This is Puppeteer's API. Okay, questions? So actually what we will do, we will launch the browser once before all tests, and then we will connect to its instance and use the same browser over and over. It's for performance. You don't have to do it, but for performance, this is the way to go. So let's talk a little bit about the flow. We want to build a game with, and as I said, there are a few methods to work TDD. Now this is the TDD. We just started TDD now, and there are a few methods. We like to work at Wix outside in. Outside in meaning starting with a larger flow, larger product flow, and then diving deeper inside. I think it's easier to work this way when you do TDD. The other approach is to work inside out, meaning I will start with the small components and then I will grow outside. But sometimes it might be hard to figure out for I think how to grow, like how to start connecting the pieces. Okay, so we will work outside in. Outside in meaning I will want to build a skeleton now for an end-to-end to start the game, to register, and then to have the first player win. Like I want a really simple skeleton now, as fast as possible. This is how I want to work outside in. It's only a recommendation, so you can work as everything I say here are recommendations. It's not a religion or something. So feel free to, I don't know, to say something different or whatever you want. So I will start with a skeleton, and I will do it in baby steps. I will not start with the large test like first player wins. I will start with a small test, and then in baby steps, I want to go as fast as possible to a working skeleton, meaning I don't have all the edge cases. I don't have the second player will not work. All I will have is first player putting x, x, x on the first row and win. Okay, and I will see a winning message. Okay, is this clear? So I can show you the flow from here. So the flow I will want now, I hope I typed in Russian correctly. So this will be the flow that I will want without the O's. So actually, whatever I will press will be X's. I won't have second player at all, okay? And few words before I start coding. A few words about TDD. I will start with the red. Red meaning I will write a small test. I will try to make it as small as possible. And then I will make it green as fast as possible. Meaning I won't think about edge cases. I won't think about nice code. Sometimes you will see that I will cheat. I will cheat my way to green. Meaning I won't write the logic. I will cheat and put something hard-coded just to be green as fast as possible. And then I will do refactor. Okay, the refactor is really important. A lot of times you see, hey, it's green, and you run to the next test. So no, don't forget about refactor. It's really important step in the way in the TDD way. Okay, questions? Cool. So let's start coding. So I will start with a browser test. I will create a file, app.e2e.js. So I'm starting from a clean file. And now let's start with something like I need a browser. I have a global.browser, remember? So I need a page. So let's start in before all. I will start with, and I will need a page. And let's start with before all. We do something like page equals await. Actually, I'm using, by the way, everything here is asynchronous. So I'm using async await, okay? But it's like, if you are not familiar with async await, it's like promises. It's the same, pretty much. So I'm doing async await, and here I have browser dot new page. This is Puppeteer API. Okay, so actually here I have okay, and global browser. Okay, so now I started with a page. Okay, as I said, I took a page from the browser. This is actually a new tab. And now let's start with the test. And the first test will be really, as I said, baby steps. First, should register a new game. Okay? And in this test, I will take page and navigate. So page.goto, and I'm going to if I'm doing mistakes, I'm testing you that you are watching. So feel free to yeah. So exactly. So feel free to correct me. It's intentionally. I want to see that you're listening. So correct me when I'm wrong. So I'm going to page.goto. This is again Puppeteer API. I'm navigating to my page. Okay, and now I want to start typing two persons, but I don't have any production code. I don't have anything here. So this is the strange part at start. So I'll start with, let's have two players, const player 1 with my name, and const player 2, which is computer. And now let's wait, oops, page.type. Type is Puppeteer wrapper, okay, for typing on a specific selector. And here I can use either class, like something like input, or I don't know, first player, or we can use, we usually like to use data hooks. Are you familiar with data hooks? Data hooks are specific hooks I put on my HTML that is intended to work with tests. So I can do data hook, which is P1 input, okay, and I will type player 1, okay, and I'll do the same for player 2. And now I want to click the button, so I'll do something like page.click. Again, Puppeteer API, it's really easy to work with, and I will click some new game data hook. Okay, so I just started, typed two names, and now I want to test that yeah. Sorry? Sorry, I don't.
Data hook first bracket.
Thanks. Intentionally, as I said, it's all intentional. So now let's grab from, we will now be in, it's hard to imagine, you have to imagine it because we're doing TDD. Now we'll have two spans, I don't know what, labels with the name. So let's grab them. So I'll have, let's even expect directly. So I expect page dot. So in Puppeteer, we have something called $eval. $eval is actually query selector. It will do query selector on the data hook I will write here, okay? And will bring me the actual HTML element that I can run, I can use on browser context, okay? I will show you and then I explain more. So data hook, P1 name. And now I will get this element. So what $eval is doing, it will query selector on this element, and then it will give me in the callback, it will give me the element, and I can actually do whatever I want on this element. This code will run on the browser. Remember, we are on Node, but now I got the element and I can use it on browser. I can do something like el.inner HTML. Okay, so I just grabbed the inner HTML of the element, and I want it to be player 1. Okay, and the same for player 2. Okay, is this clear? So $eval just gave me query selector on the element. I can grab this element now, and I can do whatever I want. I can use it for running this element on browser. This code will run on browser. Okay, and now let's see. We have an error, and we have an error. Who knows why? No code, right? So we didn't write any production code, any production line. So it's really important to see that the error is reasonable. So the reasonable here, no node found for DataHook player 1 input. This is correct. We didn't write it yet. Okay? So let's write it. So let's go to our app.js. I will remove everything in here. And in a few minutes, I'll do a few minutes break. I know it's a lot. It's hard to follow, so I'll do a small break. So let's start with the registration. Sorry, I did something wrong. And data hook equals p1 input. Okay. Input and and we have p2 input. And now we'll use a controlled component, so I need a state here. So let's use a class for that. Okay, extends. So I'm using a class and render. Sorry? After return, this one?
Yeah.
Wait, I should change it to this one, right? Great. So I have prettier here, which for some reason it doesn't work. And maybe this one. Yeah, now it worked. So component should be okay. So now let's use and let's have a this.state equals and p1 input and p2 input. So now we have a state, okay? And let's use this state here on change. Okay, questions? Okay, so we'll use this input and we have something like this.set state and p1 input is e.target.value. Okay, and same for, what did I do wrong? A new state. Okay, this will be okay. And then I'm using the same for p2 input. Okay, so we have our two inputs, and let's have a button with data hook, which is a save game, we said, right? Save game. New game. Let's see. Yeah, new game, sorry. Not save game. And let's have a new game here. Okay. So we have the first two the registration, and now let's have another, like something like this, with 2 spans, data hook, P1 name, right? With this dot state dot P1 input. And actually, if you think about it, this should be enough for me to be green. I don't even need the button event here, because I'm still at the same component. Well, I will do refactor to 2 different components really soon, to a game component and registration component, and then I will actually need this this button event. But for now, I can cheat. I can say that the test should be green, or not. Let's see, what did I do wrong here? I have a. I don't need logo. And what else did you see? Yaniv undefined. Sorry, again? Inner HTML in uppercase. Yeah. So this can happen a lot of times. Yeah, it's green. Thank you. Who said that the inner HTML in uppercase? You deserve it. The first t-shirt. So we have our first green test, okay? And we it's important to see the test red first for the right reason. So it will happen to you a lot, like you did a mistake in the test. So now what I will want to do is actually, okay, for here it's pretty stupid, but I will see it red, of course. And then I will put it again, I will see it green. It's stupid. For here, there's no reason. But usually it's really important to see it red for the right reason, okay? And after you see it red and correct for the right reason, you should see it green. And because we cheated here, so we need to do, let's do a quick refactor here, okay? Or let's take, you know what? Let's take 10 minutes break, okay? And then we'll refactor to 2 different components and fix our cheating, okay?